Scale on plants is an insect. And for anybody that don't know what it is, I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like, and I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to get rid of it. See these little brown bumps? They're not just dirt or bark, they're scale insects, and they're quietly destroying your plants. Whether you're gardening in the backyard or babying plants in a greenhouse, this is something every grower needs to know. Scale insects are sapsuckers, and they will attach to your plants and they will drain the life right out of them. There are two types of scale. There's a soft scale and then there's an armored scale. Soft scale excretes a sticky honeydew. Armored scale does not, but both are very bad news for your plants. I found scale on several of my plants in my greenhouse, but you don't need a greenhouse to end up with an infestation. They will attack plants outside, in the yard, in the garden, raised beds, containers, it doesn't matter. They very often will hitchhike a ride from nurseries onto your property when you go and purchase plants. They come in on your garden tools, they come in on your clothes, they come in on your gloves, and even ants will bring them in. Ants will herd scale pretty much like they do aphids. And also, birds and wind can transfer the mobile stages of scale, which are called crawlers, from plant to plant. Even in my greenhouse, which I thought was a fortress because it's covered, I have doors, I have screens on the windows, they managed to get in via the ants coming in because you can't keep ants out. But I have a feeling I brought them into my greenhouse from plants that I purchased, in the last 4 to 6 weeks from nurseries. And the particular nursery that I bought all my plants from, I've had issue with some of their plants and cleanliness anyways. So I'm kind of suspicious about, did I bring them in by way of bringing those plants in? Because one thing that I should have done, and I did not, was to segregate my plants. The things that I had in here that I knew were clean and safe, when I brought the new plants in, I should not have put them on the counter with some of my plant starts and small plants that I'd gotten, from elsewhere. I should have quarantined them off to the side or somewhere else so that I could have time to inspect them, because I know better than that, but I was in a hurry and I didn't do it. And that's what you should do. Anytime you bring new plants to your property, you should inspect them really good and treat them for anything you see, because plants from other places will bring in all kinds of insects, not just scale. Nurseries are actually notorious for breeding insects with their plants. And this, I don't know really if it's a fault of theirs because they grow on such a grand scale, or they harbor plants that they've bought from elsewhere on such a large scale. It might be kind of impossible to keep them completely clean, but no matter what, any plant that you purchase from anywhere, even if a friend gives you a plant, you really should inspect that plant to make sure there's no hitchhikers like scale or mites or aphids or whatever. That is like a really good way to end up with a guest that you don't want. A scale infestation does not happen overnight, but it also doesn't take that long. In just a few weeks, you can have an infestation when you started out with just a few that might have traveled in from elsewhere. Those crawlers are very tiny, almost invisible, and they can come in, settle down into your plants, and they can feed and mature and become a pretty significant infestation in 6 to 8 weeks. You can also go from thinking you are clean, meaning, you know, your plants are all clean of insects, to, oh Lord, what is this mess I've got on my hands, and find out it's an infestation, all in just one short season. And once they lay their eggs, they can actually produce multiple generations a year, depending on the temperature. We should all inspect our plants, whether they're inside or outside, at a minimal of at least every month, just to make sure that we are not harboring something like the scale, aphids, things like that. Some of the ways to spot scale on your plants: you might notice some brown, tan, gray, small bumpy areas up and down that plant or on the leaves, both topside and underneath. You may notice some honeydew or a black film that almost looks like mold on your plants, which I have noticed, but I dismissed it because it does get very humid here in the greenhouse. And on my citrus trees, my orange and my lemon over here, I did notice that blackish film getting on those leaves, but that also happens from a high humid, or high humidity situation. So I kind of dismissed it and thought that was it. Whenever I've noticed that in the past, it just takes a rinse off with the hose and they're clean again. So I saw it, but I just didn't put two and two together. Lately, since the temperatures have warmed up and we've had nicer days, I have just been on the go, coming into the greenhouse, watering things real quick and dashing back out because I had so many things to do outside. I dropped the ball and I have not inspected my plants like I should have, and now I've got to pay the price for it because I think I have an infestation for sure on my citrus trees. I've also got them on my spider plants, and that's because my spider plants were sitting next to the citrus trees on the counter, and those little critters can transfer from one place to another. I had them over here, and I had them beside the citrus here, and then I had a few down here in between these two plants right here, and they've multiplied. Sometimes leaves on a plant will turn yellow, they'll curl, and they'll fall off. That's another clue that I missed. My lemon tree was doing that, and I dismissed that as well because every year the lemon tree does that in that period when we go mainly between February and March and temperatures are kind of leveling out and not so cold, that there's a short couple of weeks where I call it a changeover, and my lemon tree will drop leaves and start putting out brand new ones. And I'm betting that was about the same timeline as these scales started coming onto into my greenhouse, and it might have been the reason that I was dropping leaves from the lemon tree. And maybe it was a twofold problem. I'm not really sure. It could have been both things happening at the same time, but that lemon tree went bare naked. Now it has put on new leaves since then, but I mean, it was butt naked and looking pretty bad. Again, I dismissed it. I shouldn't have done that. So, how do you get rid of scale? You can get rid of it. It's not a short, quick fix, however. It can take weeks and several applications. You can do it manually if you just spot a few and it's not an infestation like what I believe I have. You can scrape those little brown the insects. They just look like little brown nubs. You can scrape them off with your finger, a cotton swab, removing them manually. However, I have too many to do that, and so the next thing to do is using neem oil. And there is a mixture. Now, neem oil, many of us know about neem oil recipes, but all the recipes are not the same from insect to insect. There's, different amounts of water, soap, and neem to use depending on the insect. So this is a specific recipe that I use, and I have not had to use this in years, but I did dig out my recipe, and I'm going to upload it for anybody who wants it as a free download to help get rid of any scale. If you have scale now, or you want to know for the future in case you have scale later, you'll want to have this recipe. So I already have my mixture made up, and what I'm going to do is spray the plant, saturate it really a lot. Top of the leaves, under the leaves, up and down the trunk, or the main system, depending on, I'm doing it on a tree, so I'm saying trunk, but you just want to saturate the whole plant. And you want to do this once a week for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, me saying that does not mean it could be over and done with at the 6-week mark. If you notice that you still have a few, it might take 8 weeks, but it's going to take generally 4 to 6 weeks if you've got a pretty significant infestation. And that neem will suffocate those things, and it will take time. They're not going to instantly just fall off. It'll take time to suffocate them, and they will eventually start falling off and dying. But also, what it does is it's going to coat the eggs and the little tiny baby crawlers that have not developed that armor yet, and so they won't be able to mature. So like I said, not a quick fix, but it will happen, getting rid of them. And I'll put up the recipe for just a quick second on here, and then I will put a link to the free PDF download so that you can grab that and put it on your computer or print it out or whatever you want to do. So this, my friends, is what scale looks like. It might be a little out of focus, but it's just little brown bumps up and down the plant. These are the tiny little scale that is on my spider plant leaves. First, I will saturate the orange tree. I will get under the leaves, the top of the leaves, and up and down the trunk. Now, as per the same rule for neem, spray it in the evening if you're doing it in the outside. I can do this inside in here because I'm in the greenhouse and I do have shade in here and I've got a fan going, so it shouldn't burn my leaves. But if you're spraying plants outside, you definitely want to wait until the temperatures cool down in the evening, and this does not burn your plants. There's 3 other things that you could try, and is generally very effective. You could use a horticulture oil that will smother and kill the mature ones and the eggs. You could use an insecticidal soap. That works also. It does require multiple repeat applications. And you could also purchase some ladybugs. Ladybugs will go after those things just like they will aphids. It's a snack, and they will feast on those things. But that too may not be a quick fix. So go with the best option for your situation. And neem oil is not an instant killer. It's kind of like a slow assassin. And you'll see things happening in stages. The first 7 days, you might see some decrease, but you'll still see some that are still on the plants. And each week, you'll see less and less and less until they're all gone. But neem oil is not a quick fix. And the new immature crawlers will not survive the spray once you start spraying. So what is going to take time is getting rid of the adults. But the immature crawlers, they will die pretty quickly. And after repeating several applications of this neem oil mixture, if you're unsure, then use your phone and spotlight on the phone, or use a magnifying glass and get down and look for those tiny crawlers, because that's the stage you want to get rid of before they mature. Keep ants under control and try to keep them away from your plants, and that is not easy to do. I know I fight ants all the time. They move from one bed to another out in my garden, and I get them in the greenhouse. But trying to keep the ants under control, because they are part of the problem. They help the problem get bigger. And obviously, clean your tools regularly, because if they're on your tools, if they're on your gloves, you're going to transfer them by handling your plants. Pay special attention to citrus, gardenias, roses, magnolias, and figs, because scale really loves those as a top high priority to them. So that's what scale is, that's how you get rid of it, and that's how you can potentially prevent it in the first place. It's not the end of the world, but left unchecked could damage your plants beyond repair. So if you liked this video and it was helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow gardeners, and if you're not a subscriber, I hope you will subscribe so that you can follow my other videos as I put them out about gardening and homesteading. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. I hope that y'all have a wonderful day and stay pest free. Bye-bye.